presentation.
No.
I'm going to have a presentation about Queen Elizabeth first. But I'm also going to talk a bit of her family, the Tudor dynasty, a bit about Henry the Seventh, Arthur the Sixth, Henry the Eighth, Edward the Sixth, Jane Grey, Mary the First, and Elizabeth First. The Tudors. The Tudor dynasty was a royal house of Welsh origin. There were 5 crown monarchs: Henry the Seventh, Henry the Eighth, Edward the Sixth, Mary the First, Lady Jane Grey, and Elizabeth First. If we not include Lady Jane Grey and Arthur the Sixth. They was very powerful. The kings and the queens were very powerful at that time. They ruled the Kingdom of England and its realms, including their ancestral Wales, from 1485 until 1603. The first king was Henry the Seventh. Here he is. Henry the Seventh, he was the first monarch, as I said. He came to the throne after defeating Richard III at the Battle of Boswell Field in 1485. He was a serious man and faced many challenges to his place on the throne. He married Elizabeth of York, daughter of Edward III, uniting the houses of Lancaster and York. He then successfully established the Tudor dynasty. And when he died in 1501, he left a full treasury on his death. And he spent the money shrewdly. Here we have Arthur. He was the oldest son of Henry VIII and Henry VII and Elizabeth of York. He is reputed to be a sickly child. When he was born, he became the physical manifestation of the union of the 2 houses, Lancaster and York. When he was 2 years old, Henry VII, he negotiated the preliminary treaty of Medina del Campo with Spain, which included that Arthur should get married with Catherine of Aragon. She was the daughter of Isabel and Ferdinand, the famed monarch at the time. In 1496, it was agreed that she would arrive to England in 1500, but it wasn't until the bridegroom turned 16 that she finally started her journey in 1501. They married in St. Paul's Cathedral, November 14, 1501. After the marriage, the couple soon went to Ludlow Castle on the Welsh border, where Arthur resided his capacity as Prince of Wales. He then suddenly died on April 2nd, 1502, and the reason is unknown. Here we have Henry VIII. He is the best known of the Tudor monarchs. He was the second son of Henry VII. He became king after his brother died, and he married his brother's widow, Catherine of Aragon. And he was king from England from 21st April 1509 until his death in 1547. After he divorced, since Catherine couldn't produce a male heir to the throne, he divorced her and married another 5 wives: Anne Boleyn, Jane Seymour, Anne of Cleves, Catherine Howard, and Catherine Parr. He died in 1547. I'm going to tell you a bit about his wives. He married Catherine of Aragon in 1509, but she didn't produce a male heir to the throne, so he divorced her, but they got married first together. But in order to divorce her, he had to establish the Church of England and Catholicism. Henry went then on and married Anne Boleyn, Catherine's servant. He fell in love with her, and they married in 1533. They got Elizabeth first, and Anne Boleyn and his family had lots of enemies, and They told Henry that she was cheating on him, and Henry thought then that she would never give him the boy child he wanted, so he decided to lock her up in the Tower of London. And in 1536 she was executed for treachery and adultery. Then he married Jane Cimara just 11 days after Anne Boleyn's death. She was from a noble family, she was a gentlewoman, and the only one who gave him a surviving boy child, because the other one had died after their birth. But she died soon after but she died soon after her birth, in 1537. Then he married Anne Cleves in 1540. He sent poetry painters all the way around the world to paint portraits, and when he saw one of them, who was Anne Cleves, he decided to marry her. But when they met each other, she ignored him, and the king didn't like it, so he didn't want to marry her. But he had to because he had promised it. But the marriage didn't last long. After 9 months, he separated. He divorced her. Then he married Catherine Howard. She was Anne Boleyn's cousin. She was 16 when she came to the court, and 17 to 18 when she married Henry, who was 49 years old. Catherine Howard, she was secretly engaged to 2 other men. So when Henry found out, he got them both executed, and then beheaded her in 1542 because she was having an affair with other men. Catherine Parr was Henry's 6th and last wife. She had a relationship with Thomas Seymour, but when Henry asked her to marry him, she accepted it because she was afraid to say no to the king. They married in 1543. She was more like a nurse to him than a wife, and she was the only one who took her children back to the palace, back to the court, and she was nice to them too. When Henry died, she became a widow for the 3rd time. She died in 1547. Edward was 9 years old when he came to the throne. He was born 12 October 1537 at Hampton Court Palace. He was the only legitimate son of Henry III and Jane Seymour. He had a rigorous education and was intellectually precocious, although his health was never good. It was his protectors who ran the country. He died at the age of 15 in 1553. Then Lady Jane Grey, she was chosen to be queen by the Duke of Northumberland in order to keep England a Protestant country. The people didn't approve Jane's succession and support Mary's claim to the throne. Queen Lady Jane, she reigned just for 9 days before Mary successfully took over the throne. She and her husband was beheaded in 1554 for treason. He was married to her. She was born on February 1516 and died in 1558. She came to the throne after Lady Jane died. No, before she died. She promised to return, she was Catholic, and she promised to return England to Catholicism. And she saw her young sister, Elizabeth I, who was Protestant, as a direct threat. She was always jealous at Elizabeth, and she treated her cruelly. She was also called Bloody Mary because of the numbers of people who were executed for being Protestants. Now I'm going to talk about Elizabeth, some basics, her early life. why her reign is called the Golden Years, and what happened after that he took over. Some basics. She was born in Greenwich on September 1533. She served as queen from 1558 until her death in 1603. Her parents were Henry VIII and his second wife, Anne Boleyn. She was baptized at the Church of the Grey Friars at Greenwich. And she is also called a Virgin Queen because she never got married or had children. She became Queen of Ireland, France, and England. Her early life. When Elizabeth was 2 years old, her mother was beheaded for adultery in orders of her father, and she was exiled from the court. Henry's sixth wife, Catherine Parr, she took a keen interest in the young Elizabeth. He made sure that she was educated to the highest standards, and so she did. She mastered her studies in classical literature, rhetoric, history, and moral philosophy with help of a teacher, Robert Asham. She was shrewd and intelligent woman who was fluent in 6 languages. She became queen after her half-sister Mary the First died. This was in the White Golden Age. In 1558 she became queen because Mary, she didn't have an heir to the throne, so then Elizabeth became the queen. She upheld the Protestantism in England, and after King Henry VIII's ruler, the people were tired of the military economy, and their reputation were falling apart, and they were very ready for a stronger ruler. Elizabeth was a level-headed, fun-loving person. She was in her 20s when she came to the throne. She had lots of pressure from the English people to bring the nation back to the earth, and that's exactly what she did. She succeeded in a political world where only men dominated, proving a woman could rule as well as any man. She led Britain into defeating the Spanish Armada in 1558. She strengthened England's economy. She turned England to She turned England to one of the world's powerful countries in the world and one of the leading countries in the world. She established the poor laws. She achieved a new framework of support for the needy, and she helped forget sense of national identity. The country flourished in knowledge, power, and relief from the awful reign of Henry VIII. And the rulers of many European states made unsuccessful bids to marry Elizabeth, and she used this bid to strengthen her power. When Elizabeth died in 1603, the Tudor line ended. When she died, next in line was James of Scotland. He was the son of Mary Queen of Scotland, and he was also related to Elizabeth. And in 1603, James VI of Scotland became King James I of England, Scotland, and Ireland. And after the death of Elizabeth I, uniting the throne of Scotland and England. The Stuart had then taken over the Tudors.